Good evening. I'd like to call to order the August 20th meeting of the Kingston Planning Board. It is 6:46, I guess. And this is a public hearing. The first thing I'd like to do is introduce the people at the table so you know who is sitting here. To my left is our town engineer, Dennis Quintel. Rob Tosolo is one of our planning board members. Ben Romano is a planning board member. Peter Coffin is a planning board member. I'm Lynn Merrill, I'm the chair. Robin Carter is our land use administrator. Ellie Alessio is our selectman rep. Liam is not here tonight. Robin Duguay will be here shortly. She's our vice chair, and she'll be sitting next to Glenn Greenwood, who is our town planner. So for those of you who have not been to one of these hearings before, the way the process works is first the applicant comes forward and they present their proposal to us. We listen to the proposal, the planning board asks questions, we get comments from our town engineer, our town planner. We read the comments from the various departments here in town, and then we have some more discussion. At that point, we'll open it to public comment. Members of the public are asked to come forward. You're asked to sit in one of these two chairs, to pick up this microphone, and there's a button here. It's red. You just hit the button and it turns green so that everybody here and everybody at home can hear you. At that point, you just need to give us your name and your address so we know who you are and the reason that you're here and where you're located. So, that being said, the first order of tonight's public hearing is the applicant is CJ&J Leasing. This is the second public hearing for that. The property owners Greg and Scott Dimitri, and that's at 83 Route 125. They have asked to continue this to our next public hearing night, which is September 17th. They received the comments back from our town planner and town engineer, and they'd like to work on their plans a little bit further before coming forward. So, with that in mind, do we have a motion?
Yeah, I'll move that we continue the CJ&J hearing till 17th of September at 6:45 at the town hall at the applicant's request, with all new materials due by 5 September.
Yep. Second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The hearing is continued. So any of you who are here for that hearing or at home watching on TV for that hearing, this is the only notice you'll have that that hearing has been continued until next month. Second hearing tonight is for Lifestyles Electric, Inc. Property owners Hasback LLC. They're at 6 Granite Road. The applicant is proposing a commercial site plan to provide a new business space at 6 Granite Road with an expanded driveway off Granite Road. The proposed multi-unit commercial building will have 6 bays. And they were here last month, so this hearing is continued from that. Hello, Christian.
Hello, good evening, Madam Chair. Christian Smith, engineer with Beals Associates, representing Lifestyles Electric on the project. Apologies, I forgot the first instruction. I did not hit the button.
So you need to repeat.
So on this project, Ashley and John Harris, owners of Lifestyle Electric, are here with me as well. And so we did provide a full response to the initial review comments from both Civil Construction Management and Glenn Greenwood, your planner. We received just in the last couple of days comments back with a few outstanding items from both. I didn't know which one you'd like me to take up first, or?
Doesn't matter.
All right, well, let's go with Mr. Greenwood's, because that's on the top of my pile. So we are down to, I think, 4 comments outstanding. The first one is his original number 4, and it discusses the site plan, indicates that snow will be plowed into the stormwater infiltration pond is that a best management practice? And that is actually no longer proposed. We have relocated the snow storage areas to be off either side of the entrance drive, and again, off the end of the pullout that we've added behind the building or to the southwest of the building. And we'll get into that a little further when we get to Dennis's comments, because he had a couple of suggestions along those lines as well. The well is shown on the plan, but its intended protective radius is 75 feet where 100 is required. And we had mentioned that it's the DES requirement is 75 feet. Glenn pointed us to 1304.1B1 and 2, and it requires a 100-foot well radius in the local ordinance, and that setback is to septic systems and surface water. So I have added that, and we will label it as such. You can see the, my pointer died, there it goes. And you can see the 100-foot radius and then the 75-foot radius. I will point out that the ordinance does say that the separation or setback to property lines shall be what the state requires, and that is the 75-foot, which is contained completely within the parcel. So that's a change that we've made. And then with regard to recording the site plan, we know that the Rockingham Registry is not thrilled about recording site plans. If it is something the board absolutely wants to have happen, I would suggest we take the parking and pavement plan, as that shows all the appurtenances on the property of the particulars of the site plan, except for contours, proposed contours, which again makes things a lot easier to prepare for recording, simply due to the fact that the registry's lines through text becomes extremely burdensome on, preparing plans for recording. With regard to getting a surveyor's endorsement on it, that's not a problem. Laval's happy to do that, and they'll put on their, caveat that this is not a subdivision or doesn't create a new public way, et cetera, et cetera. So I don't know if the board has any opinions on that immediately, if that's something that that is standard, that takes place in the town of Kingston. You guys can let me know. And if you concur that there's enough information on the parking and pavement plan to be adequate for recording.
Okay. Any questions from the planning board before we ask? Okay. Dennis?
Just pertinent notes, would have to be on the, Glenn, you probably know better than me.
I'll work with you, Christian, to make sure that
Okay. Yep.
we have everything on the plan that we need.
Sure. Perfect.
There were still 2 comments from you, right, Glenn?
Yes, I haven't gotten there yet. I just wanted to get some input from the board on that recording question. With regard to the fire protection, so because this is a steel construction building, which will be constructed with 2-hour firewalls in between each of the units, there was no additional fire protection proposed. We have put in the requested items such as the Knox box when the fire chief did his initial technical review. But aside from that, there's no proposal for sprinklers or a pressure tank or anything of that nature, simply due to the fact that this is not a wood structure, and 2-hour firewalls will be provided in between each of the units. So again, I think that's something that Glenn was requesting the board to have some input on and some conversation about.
Okay. All right.
Which we can put off, and I'll go on to 13.
Okay.
So number 13, we had actually discussed with the board last time in pretty extensive detail, and that was specific to the parking requirements. The parking calculations have been updated and appear correct now, and as discussed at the last meeting, we have put in a waiver request. We provide, there's 2 available spaces inside of each of the units through the garage doors, and then we have 18 on the ground for a total of 30, where 36 are required by straight calculation of the ordinance. We feel that that's reasonable. The owners who are going to occupy and manage the space feel that that's more than adequate. I mean, this is a little different than a lot of plans, for this type of a business in that I don't anticipate, and I don't think that they anticipate a large number, if at all, of visitors. I mean, we don't have commercial space here. There's not people coming to shop. It's really just going to be the occupants and probably their workers.
Back to the fire question. Where's the nearest hydrant to that? Dry hydrant?
That's a valid question.
Is it the one up by Saddle Up, or is there
They
one?
just put some in Plastow, if you could use those.
Which I'm quite sure Kingston has mutual aid with Plastow.
So they
Yeah, we have
just put-
mutual aid
they
with
just
Plastow,
put it all
that's not an
over.
issue, but I was just curious, because sometimes that makes a difference as far as what the requirements are. I was trying to think, is the one off, oh God, what's the name of the street? Sold houses on that too. The one on by Bayberry Pond. There's Deborah and there's, is there one, I don't think there's one there. Just curious, because if there's one across the street, we'd be fine. So, okay, just curious. All right.
All right, does the board want to take up the waiver, or should we go through Dennis's comments
Let's
prior
go
to
through
that?
everybody's comments
Okay,
here,
perfect.
everything, and then
Yep,
we'll
that's great.
go through everything.
Yep, and going through Dennis's outstanding comments, number one, he cites the depiction on the existing condition plan of the proposed DOT easement, which is intended to be, part of an improvement that DOT has planned for Granite Road, and in particular the Granite Road intersection on the northerly side. And in fact, I believe that, if I recall correctly, the Department of Transportation intends to redo that entire stretch of road from the southerly intersection with 125 all the way up to the northerly intersection. And the fact that Lavelle had a portion of the septic field within that easement, we actually received today construction approval for a relocated septic system, which I have a copy of the state approved plan here, and I should just enter this into record, give this to Robin. That depicts the new field, which is outside the state's proposed potential drain. Let's see, was there anything else on number one? No, I believe that is it. There was a couple of confusing setback lines shown on the existing conditions plan. I have gone over that with Ryan Lavelle this afternoon, and he will, that correction is being made, or could have already been made. Number 6 discusses the waiver again, and then he also comments that the proposed use could have a landscape business, an electrical business, plumbing, that kind of thing, which is, certainly tradesmen are the likely occupants of this, and then discusses an additional, or a requirement for additional turnout. I mean, we did add this so that anybody with a vehicle with, the owners with vehicles within the building can back into that and use that to drive out. If, folks have a business where they customarily and regularly use long trucks with trailers, my assumption is they won't be leasing property here. And again, I mean, these guys are on site every day. They will be managing this. They handle all the leasing of the units. I just don't see, for a turnout here, adding more pavement to this property. We've done pretty much everything that we can to kind of minimize the impervious surface. And again, the owners will be occupants. of the property, and they will manage everything. In fact, John Harris is the guy who will be plowing this and maintaining the parking area as well. So, you know, I guess when we get through this, that can be a discussion for the board, and I can get your thoughts on it, but that's kind of my initial take on number 6 as well. Numbering for the units and the parking spaces, and I guess I would ask Dennis, are you suggesting in that the space stalls be numbered? Was that the intent or your intent?
I think it would be easier when a unit is rented, that someone would know. If I came in to rent a unit, I'd like to know which parking spaces that I have that I could use without somebody using them. So if you just put numbers on there, so when the time comes that you do hire, somebody does come to occupy unit 2, let's say, they know which parking spaces that they can have. So if it's a recorded plan that has the numbers on them, it's easier to just say, okay, you're gonna occupy space, have the ability to occupy space 4, 5, and 6, or something like that. It just makes it easier later on, that's all. And that way there's no confusion of somebody coming in renting one unit and then using 8 parking spaces of their own and making a problem for you later on, just to make it easier for you in the future.
Yep, understood. You folks have any issue with that? Designating spaces? So I think everybody would get 2 in their unit, 2 per unit, and then 3.
You don't have to say that at this point in time, just put numbers on it. It's just when the time comes that.
Oh, I see what you're saying,
when
just
the
number them
time
1
comes.
through 18.
Exactly.
Okay,
Exactly,
okay.
yeah, just number them for now. You don't have to designate at this point in time.
Who gets what?
I might come in, only want 1 space.
Right, okay. Yep, and the owners don't have any issue with that, so that is fine, we'll take care of that. The site, number 14 is the site plan requires owner of record and abutters. Now, these are shown on the EC plan. Did you just want that information copied over to one of the site plans, Dennis?
It should be on the plan that's recorded, otherwise they won't record.
Okay, so when we figure that out,
Yeah,
we
you
can
can
add that. That's not a problem. That's simple turning on layers in AutoCAD. So I'll make a note of that, add to record plan. Okay, now we're back to the snow storage and the bioretention pond. Dennis makes a very similar comment to Glenn's, and our intent when we redesigned this and created the bioretention pond up in the front to the southeast here, the 50-year storm essentially tops out at the 126 elevation, which is right here. From there, it's graded back to the pullout that we had originally designed after the original review. So our thought was that area would basically provide a pre-treatment swale even through the 50-year storm, because the peak elevation in the 50-year storm is literally 126.02, so effectively 126. And again, that contour ends right there. And then the swale runs around. I mean, we can extend that swale a little bit to catch, you know, more of the area from the dumpster and the pull-off, but everything in my estimation, as I look at how things are going to flow when it rains, are going to get in there anyway. So that does provide a pre-treatment function. With regard to the bituminous curbing, you know, in order to keep water from running into that directly, into the bioretention swale directly, that could be extended out to the point that it just forces water to drain into that pre-treatment area. And I guess I would, you know, defer to Dennis if he's comfortable with that approach.
You want an answer now? I'm going by what the plan shows, and the plan shows it running directly into the basin, according to the contours or spot elevations that you show
Yes,
there.
right.
So obviously, if you're looking at trying to modify that, then when I get revised plans, I'll take a look at it and see, but my concern is basically with that comment is plowing snow into the basin, which is going to carry sand and sediments and impact the infiltration ability of the detention basin. So I would think that there should be some sort of a separation between the edge of the pavement and the detention basin, and also a fence put there so that, you know, snow wouldn't be plowed into the basin. So that's something that you can take a look at and try to answer my comment. And if you disagree, that's certainly something you and the planning board can talk about.
Yep, and I guess I would just ask Dennis, in theory, does extending the Cape Cod berm down to the point that it will enter into the swale above the elevation of the 50-year pond elevation? Does that work for you?
As long as something's good, you can have it all pitched toward the end where the dumpster basin is, and then have a swale go down to the basin. But the basin should be protected from snow plowing and any cars that would.
Yep, and I've just queried the owners, and they don't have an issue, you know, putting up a fence that would prevent plowing into that as well.
Okay. So you will answer that question.
Absolutely. Then we are on to number 20, bonds for inspections and performance. I guess the bond for inspection is kind of obvious to me. With the new state law, my curiosity is what would the board be thinking of for you know, construction bonds, because they kind of got away from that with the new state law, where basically you build it till you get an occupancy permit, and then you bond what's left to be done. So say that they're asking for occupancy permits when they've gotten the parking area to the base course paving as opposed to the finished course paving, then they would put up a bond for whatever outstanding construction was left. Is that how the board sees this working?
He's reciting exactly what the state law says the process should be, so I would say yes, that is what we would do.
Okay. So then I guess what I would propose is what we'll do is we will come up with a full-on bond estimate for all of the work. Dennis will obviously review that and make sure he's comfortable with the numbers and the volume and area estimates. And then at the time they go get a building permit, we go out, we do an inspection, and we say, okay, you know, this is at 80%, that's at 50%, this is complete, and here's your outstanding balance, and that's what they would look for at the time of getting a CO. Perfect. Number 22, oh, nope, number 21. The inspection and maintenance document must be recorded at the Registry of Deeds. No exception taken to that comment. We kind of anticipated that. Number 22, the drainage calculations, Dennis has no further issues with after we went and we had Luke Hurley, our soil scientist, go out and do some additional test pits. We know a lot more about what's underneath the ground there. Number 23, excuse me, is specific to this thing is actually acting funny, but this area right here, and we do show snow being stored there because I presume they will plow it there. You know, and again, as the owner / occupant is going to be managing this and maintaining that drive, if he sees water ponding behind that, you know, he will deal with the berm and take it down so that water can flow as intended, because it's just the natural flow that, yeah, this little water from the high point runs across that pavement and into that swale, and then finally into the actual bioretention. So I mean, I don't see personally you know, a need to augment that design, knowing that these guys are drinking that water. Obviously, they're going to protect that well, you know. But again, the board can discuss that. Certainly happy to hear any additional input that that Dennis might have on that point.
Could you put the drainage behind the dumpster?
Well, what I was trying to do with that design, Dennis, is just try to keep out of that slope. But as I mentioned, I can extend that swale up and around to a certain point. But yeah, what I can definitively do is extend that as far as, you know, it's already a pretty steep slope is my point, and we don't really want to start cutting into it and making it steeper and having to get into tree removal or anything of that nature. But I will take a shot at it and see if we can't come to a
So, just to add on to that, it's just that a lot of water is coming from the backyard that will drain across the paved area there, and it would create icing and whatever, so it's just an obstacle to me that I think that would be, if you can get the water off the pavement and get it around the back of the dumpster, is less chance of it being a problem.
Yeah.
That's all I was looking at.
Yep, and we'll take a look at that for sure, you know, in our next iteration here. And then the final comment was on sheet number 6 in the construction sequence. The recommendation is that a pre-construction meeting would be held, and obviously we certainly anticipated that would be the case. So what I proposed and what I did to the drawings before I got here tonight was just in that construction sequence paragraph, Dennis, just made a parentheses after that title and just wrote in after pre-construction meeting or pre-construction hearing. Yeah. If that gets it done for you, then I think we're all set there. And I think that is largely it. The only other issue that we discussed at some length, and there was a memo from DPW continuing that conversation for tonight's hearing, was the ownership and quote-unquote maintenance of Granite Road. The applicants had reached out because obviously they needed to get the easement for Lavelle so that they could put it on the plan and all of that. And we did receive on July 19th correspondence from a Nancy Welch at DOT District 6. And her comment is, Granite Road is a Class 5 road owned and maintained by the town. And she goes on to suggest, you know, how to get the plans. But that, pretty cut and dry what the state thinks with regard to ownership of that. And I do have copies of that if the board would like them. Okay. Let's see this one for you as well. Your files.
I don't need this one if you want.
Oh, you did? Okay. I'll make sure it's not it. Not it.
I'm all set.
So just as a board comment, as you know, we've been looking at the master plan and revising the master plan this year. I spent quite a bit of time with the master plan and reviewing it. And on the master plan is a list of town-owned roads, and on that list is Granite Road.
That
It doesn't
concurs
mean
with the
Class
DOT's
5.
position.
It doesn't mean it's, yeah,
Class 5, it could be a Class 6, it's still be
it was
counted.
listed as a Class 5 road.
But listed as Class 5, that's what counts, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. So it's listed as a Class 5
Yeah.
town road
And-
on the
and-
master plan. Now, I don't know if the master plan is a document that is a legal ruling document
Right.
for something like that.
It's literally advisory.
Right, it's advisory, so I don't know or not, I have no idea. I just know that if we went through this, it was there.
But at some point, someone said that it was a Class 5 road. I will say on that, do you know what the DOT's current plans are for reconfiguring that section? And
Basically, it's right up at the intersection is the only change, and then across the street in that little island area between Granite Road and 125, they've got a new drainage system going in there that I think consists of a forebay and a pond. Where it goes south from there, I'm uncertain, but the comment that we got, and I think she reiterated that in the email, was that their intention is going to be to reconfigure both of those entrances, and they are going to completely, I'm not sure if they intend to reclaim the existing paved surface, but they are going to completely redo that, the entire length of that little jug handle, which is Granite Road.
And just for your information, on the latest transportation improvement plan, I noticed that they had just requested an extra year of project engineering for that. So it looks like 2026 is the starting dates for the construction, and that can keep going out. It's been going out since I've been in that board.
I know how the DOT works.
Yes, or doesn't.
Or doesn't, right, correct.
So I just didn't know how that was going to affect your plans, but I guess you'll
Yeah, I don't think that it does, right.
It's not going to move into your property. It's
That's
just
right.
going to be moving away, so you may get.
Yeah, it actually pulls away, you know, just on the northerly edge of the property where we're not proposing to do anything anyway, but.
And the other question I had about, obviously, resolving the Class 5 issue, but this lot was previously an excavation site, not borrow pit, but it, you know, it has a very steep dirt slope. And I was wondering if this, and then maybe Dennis is going to answer this, if these plans constitute a sufficient reclamation plan, and whether there's some kind of slope stability considerations like a retaining wall or anything that would stabilize that slope.
I think that's certainly something that Christian can take a look at. My concern would be the steepness of the slopes and protecting anybody on a butter or anything that's with a four-wheeler or any other type of motor vehicle or anything, any kids playing around there falling off a steep slope like that and getting hurt. But certainly their property, and I would think if I was them, I'd make sure that they protect that somehow with some sort of an earth berm or some sort of a construction fence or something like that at the top of the slope to make sure that nobody's going to get hurt from falling off a steep slope, falling down a steep slope. But could it be reclaimed as a steep slope? But you'd have to probably do some blasting or something like that. So just something for you to take a look at, and it's more of a safety issue than it is aesthetic to me.
We do have plans to put a retaining wall back there at minimum, potentially a berm as well. The retaining wall block is actually already on site. If you take a drive by, you'll see all the pallets.
Any questions from the board?
No, probably just those comments that we need to address, and especially the registering.
We don't have any more comments, do we? No, there are no more comments. The only thing we received was exactly what had been raised a few minutes ago from our Director of Public Works, and he said, I have no further comments on this as it pertains to the application, but I still question the state's assertion that Granite Road is a town road, and as such, we have no plans to modify our current maintenance activities. So that was the only thing he said.
And I don't think that the owners and the applicants have any issue with that.
Okay.
You know, John's very capable with his plow truck. If he needs to get into his business, he will.
Okay. No more questions?
I think that was the only reason that was a significant issue last time, is because of our 200 feet on a Class 5 or better road requirement. So if it was not a Class 5 or better, if it was a Class 6, then that would become an issue. But
yeah, and I think by virtue of the fact that it's paved and has been paved in the past, that's probably when the designation went to Class 5, would be my guess. If it was ever, you know, driven as a gravel road in the past.
Predating 125 probably was.
Yeah,
Well,
it's
there was
possible.
125 before there was 125.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Okay.
Okay. Any other comments from the board? Seeing none, I guess we can go to public comment. Oh, wait a minute.
No,
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
just at some point, somebody remind me, I think we didn't invoke jurisdiction on this at the last hearing?
I don't
Well,
think
we
we
didn't
did.
because of that Class 5 issue.
Right,
And because there were a
Right.
lot of things that were unaddressed.
correct. So-
Or improperly addressed from my perspective, and I would just like to say that my hesitancy about invoking jurisdiction does not exist anymore.
Okay.
So that's just something for the board to consider this evening, because
Yes.
I don't want it to go untalked about.
Should we invoke jurisdiction before going to public comment? Okay. Do we have a motion?
I'll second.
We have a-
Okay. Robbins.
So we have a motion from Elliot, second from Peter, to invoke jurisdiction. Do we have any further discussion on that? Seeing none, all those in favor? Okay, jurisdiction is invoked. Step one done. Okay, so is there any member of the public that is here that would like to comment on this particular application tonight? Okay. So what we need you to do is please come and sit in one of the chairs. Push the button so this turns green. Introduce yourself and tell us where you live.
James McCusker, 93 Kingston Road in Plastow. The only real abutter that it would impact. We weren't aware of anything on the first notice of this, so we had no idea this was even coming. So we're wondering what's even going in. We got, this, and it shows something similar to that, but we have no idea what it's being used for, what hours it's being used for. We had a major problem with the last place that was trying to go in there. But I can see it's quite a bit different.
Okay, sorry you missed the last meeting, but we will certainly.
Yeah, we weren't notified. We never got a notification. This is the first notification we got. So that's why I was saying we were never notified. This said second, and we were wondering whatever happened to the first notification.
A couple were returned because the address was illegible.
Oh.
That's why. So the post office sent it back to us, so we sent it right back out.
I never made it, so.
Yeah, it was a blank, completely blank label. It like disappeared.
Yeah, when it went through the post office,
Yeah.
not through here,
Yep.
but through the
So it
post
was
office.
sent out, it just, a couple of them came back.
But it didn't get resent, or we still
Yeah.
weren't notified?
That did, yes.
That's what you have.
This is the second meeting, though, you said?
Yeah, but the first one we didn't get back until after the meeting.
Right, so,
So you missed the first meeting.
Yeah.
yeah, because we weren't notified.
No,
So-
that was fine. So you're asking a question, it's a good one. I think you should know what's going next to you.
Absolutely.
It is a six-unit contractor building. Garages in the front and for contractor type things.
And what's going on outside? Is there going to be any storage out there? Is there,
No storage.
chemicals, things of that nature? Because that's right underneath Little River, and that, my well's right near that property.
If someone is going to locate there, they have to come before the planning board and tell us what's going in and what they're going to do. And we would ask about chemicals at that time. Right now, they don't know who they're going to lease to, so we don't know what's going in, so we can't.
Because you do have limitations on the use of that property.
We do.
For what's, okay. All right.
And this is just for the gentleman's awareness. Lifestyles Electric, which the Harrises own, will occupy 2 of the 4 spaces, so there will be 4 for rent.
Okay.
So I'm sure they're going to be very careful about who they lease the remainder of the building to.
Yep, so it's not condos, it's not sold off as each individual?
No, they're going to be leased.
Okay,
That's the plan. If they want to make them into condos, they have to come back to us to go through the condo process.
okay. All right. Very good. That should do it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for coming. Do we have any other public comment? Seeing none, we'll close public comment and go back to planning board. Okay. So on this, we do have a waiver request. And the waiver request is to Article 904.14.b.1 of the site plan review regulations. It requires 2 spaces per 1,000 square feet and 1 space per employee to allow 30 parking spaces where 36 are required. We feel the waiver is justified as the proposed site will not generate as much traffic or require as much parking as a more traditional industrial development. The applicant and future tenant of the building are comfortable with the proposed parking configuration, as the units are anticipated to be occupied by contractors who will not be on the property for the bulk of the business day, nor have a large number of visitors. Finally, the proposed reduction in parking stalls provides for the less impervious area and increased green space on the parcel. So,
Can I just clarify, so it's went from 18 to 30, is that correct? The original plan was 18 and now we're up to 30 spaces?
No, we still have 18 surface spaces, but there are 2 available parking spaces inside each of the units through the garage doors.
Got it, so that's where the 30 is coming from?
Correct. There are 12, or excuse me, 2 in each of the 6 units for 12, and then 18 surface spaces. Yep, we just had the calculations
Thank you for clarifying.
confusing in the first round.
okay, would we like a motion so that we can discuss this?
I move that we grant the waiver to allow 30 parking spaces as opposed to 36.
Okay, do we have a second?
Sorry, Adam. I move that we grant a waiver for 30 parking spaces instead of the 36 computed.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
Let Robin be the decider on that one. Okay. Any discussion?
I guess that's something I would ask Dennis and Glenn on, because you're more familiar with the use. But I did listen to what they were saying they expected the use to be, but do you think, maybe Glenn, do you think that was unreasonable, a number? I mean, for 4 units, 36?
I think as long as the 2 internal spaces are legitimately provided, which
That
means.
don't get used up for something else, yeah.
Yeah, that they don't become, usable indoor space for whoever wants to be there, then there seems to me to be adequate parking on the site. But if that doesn't happen, we're back to square one from my perspective, that the 18 surface spaces aren't enough.
Right. What I would say is that if it becomes inconvenient for people to only have 2 outdoor spaces because they've used up the 2 indoor spaces for their business, then maybe the answer is that, oh, well, you need to use those 2 indoor spaces. I don't know how, if they're blocked by the outdoor spaces, access, so that if you use the indoor spaces, you wouldn't, and people are parked outside, that's a logistics issue, but
It is indeed.
it seems to me that if they are providing 4 spaces per unit, if people aren't using those 4 spaces don't have those 4 spaces because they're using it for something else, then
Then the other cars will have to be parked off-site.
yeah, I mean, I would say it's an internal issue.
Is that something that can be stipulated in the lease agreement, that those spots will not be occupied if parking's?
Well, I think if a business moves in there and they know they're only going to need 2 parking places, they don't have customers coming or whatever else, and they definitely need this extra space that's indoors, they can voluntarily cede those, but then they can't complain that we don't have enough parking places, or people start parking, out of bounds, as it were.
Don't forget, they're also going, the tenants are still going to need occupancy permits, and that's going to, you have an opportunity to review They have 5 parking spots per unit, 3 on the outside, 2 on the inside.
Right.
Oh,
So-
right, that's right.
Yeah.
So it's,
There's 3 per unit by numbers on the
in the
exterior.
exterior, so,
You know, and again, I would also remind the
Yeah.
board that Lifestyles will be occupying 2 of the units as well.
Right. So the way I see it is that it seems to be reasonable, and if it's granted that way, I think it's an internal issue among the owners and the renters, the leasers, about how they use the space available, as it were, so.
We do have a note in the plan that says 12 of the parking spaces are interior to the units. So.
Yes.
We
And that would be
have-
condition
We have it documented where these spaces
exists, yeah. Yeah, we're not just approving an 18-space
Right,
unit.
right.
Which-
So folks who were gonna come to lease, there's all sorts of evidence showing that those 2 internal spaces are required spaces. It just, I don't want this to become a town-required enforcement issue.
Right, that's why I'm saying it's becomes an internal issue, that we provided 5 places per unit,
And that should be enough.
yeah, and then they can complain to the landlord.
Well, and again, that's exactly where I was headed, Mr. Coffin, is that, you know, the last people that want parking issues out here are these folks. You know, so they will police their own parking, I'm quite sure.
But nevertheless, the plan goes with the property. And if they are no
Without
longer the
question.
owners of the property, we have to make certain that whatever plans come forth are also adequate for future owners.
Absolutely.
Okay. Any other discussion on parking? Oh, yes, Dennis.
So, yeah, I have a concern about the parking, because you're granting a waiver to what's kind of recommended in most cases like this. But my real issue is with delivery vehicles coming in for delivering parts, where can they turn around? If you designate 1 or 2 spots for turnaround, then you're losing even more parking places. Most delivery vehicles that come in there now are gonna have to, if the parking lots are full, spaces are full, then they gotta back out into Granite Road. Not that Granite Road is highly traveled, but you shouldn't be backing a delivery vehicle out there. So perhaps they could take a look at maybe making a turnaround for vehicles to get in and out of there. But that's certainly something that I would think that they should do, as far as looking for some sort of a turnaround for any delivery vehicles that come in there. Or if I had a trailer or something like that, that I can drive in there, get turned around, pick up my materials and whatever, and drive out. But backing out into the road is certainly something that shouldn't be done.
That I can agree with, that I certainly think the plans should include some kind of vehicle turn area.
Well, and I mean, I would just put this to the board, because, you know, again, these folks are gonna be the largest tenants. They have a total of 10 spaces. Do you guys ever foresee occupying 6 exterior spaces with your business?
I'm the only one on site all day.
There are
The
gonna be
guys are on
spaces
jobs all
open.
day.
I can't fathom a condition where all the 18 exterior spaces and all the interior spaces would be full.
Well, as Lynn pointed out, the plans go with the property, and if the electric isn't there 10 years from now, or 15 years from now, from whatever, and you have 4 independent lessees there, and people getting deliveries of one kind or another, or need to turn trailers around, or tractor trailers in there.
I wouldn't drive a tractor trailer in there if I was anyone.
Don't forget, if the ownership changes and occupancy changes.
Right.
They have to come back here.
So I think.
And they have to comply.
Green button.
trying to anticipate a problem that I'm not sure we can, because they have to, any new occupancy has to come back for an approval for a certificate of approval for occupancy. So you have another bite of the apple to make sure that the type of business that would locate in those 2 units, for example, would not necessarily need a tractor trailer or not to get occupancy if they did, unless there were provisions made for a turnaround. It's hard to anticipate a problem 15 years down the road for 6 parking spots, and that's what we're arguing over. Not arguing, discussing.
Discussing.
Any other comment?
I would just say, I would separate those 2 issues. The number of parking spaces, I'm fine granting the waiver for that, but I do think there should be some way to turn around on the property if you have come in with a delivery truck, because all businesses will get deliveries. And I think you need a way to turn around on the property. Because especially if those are designated spaces outside, nobody's going to want to say, okay, you can't park in these 2 spaces because that's our hammerhead. I think there should be places that isn't a parking area that you can turn around, and that I think that we should address separately from the parking space issue. But
Okay, so why don't we take a vote on parking, and then we'll discuss turnaround. The
Motion before us is on
And parking.
approving the parking.
Correct. So, all those in favor of reducing the parking spaces from 36 to 30, please say aye. Okay, opposed? Okay, so we have the waiver for 30 parking spaces. Sorry about that.
And while we're on that subject, since we've already started discussing it, this was Dennis's comment number 6. I think we should discuss whether we want to have someplace maybe on the slope side of the building where vehicles could turn in and turn around. It's just that additional turning space.
Did you make that in form of, oh, okay.
Oh, yeah, I think that we probably need some recommendation. I think it would have to be added to the plan and reviewed by Dennis as to whether it would be sufficient, because I don't know turning radii and things like that for 50-foot box trucks, whatever.
What size trucks are you talking about turning around? You talking a tractor trailer, or you talking like a 30-foot box truck?
Probably, what do you think, Dennis? At the very least, a 30-foot box truck. I think that would be a minimal.
And that space at the end is not large enough for a 30-foot box truck to turn around?
I think that you have to make sure that it's clear enough that delivery trucks will be able to get in and out of there. Any tractor trailers would probably be parked out on Granite Road and walk deliveries in. Backing into a site, I know I've seen a lot of the delivery vehicles back into people's long driveways that don't have turnarounds, so it can be done, but I would hate to have somebody get hurt.
I'm running a business out of my house right now. I have a 350-foot driveway, and these trucks are backing down Sweet Hill Road all day long with traffic, and it's a non-issue.
It's just an issue that's a concern of a site plan, not only present owners, but future owners. So that's why I bring it up as a hazardous situation that should be resolved at this time, where it's before the board for corrections and making the plan as good as they can. So just something for you to take a look at and perhaps come up with an answer, that's all.
Okay.
Okay.
So we, do we have an agreement that they're gonna come up with a revised plan, or do we want to put a motion that they provide?
Let's see if there's anything other issues before we,
Okay.
so we know that that's one thing to discuss.
Can I make a suggestion?
Yeah.
What if we change that vote for parking down to 29 and you leave the last one for a turnaround?
Yeah.
This way it's labeled that, you're gonna label the parking spots anyways, so.
Yeah, we could do, a bunch of lines saying like you can't park there.
Yep.
Yeah, in other words, almost stripe it like a handicap
Yes.
offload.
Especially if you guys are gonna be occupants in there, I mean, giving up one of your 6 spaces, which then solves the issue as far as the turnaround.
Does that work for you, Dennis?
It's really up to the board, as long as it's a turnaround. If it
Okay.
improves the safety issues of the site, I think that's really the argument you have to present, is that whatever you can do, whether you try to add an extra parking space right at the entrance coming in, not here to design it for you, but on the entrance coming in, you could make a turnaround either side of the building. I know a lot of people like to park right beside the building. You can take a look at that as an option.
Unfortunately, that's where the new septic system got approved. So that's,
They could be under the table.
yeah, that's true. That's true.
Okay.
Sorry, I didn't press my button. That's what-
So
I
Dennis,
know
just
how
a,
it feels.
just a quick question, if it's the last parking spot before the big, the back, like, extension, what if people pulled in there and then backed in and then pulled out? I mean, would that suffice as far as the turnaround goes?
However they make it, whether it's at the beginning for a turnaround or at the end where the dumpster is for a turnaround, as long as it's room enough to get a vehicle in and turned around, or somebody with a trailer, I think that's really the goal. I think that would be helpful to make it clear to the planning board that it's going to be safe for any delivery vehicles coming in and out.
Okay,
Well, if that's the case, you'd have to reconsider that vote.
I moved that we amend the previous vote approving 30 spots to allow for 29 parking spots, thereby accommodating 1 parking space for a turnaround area.
Would that be wide enough?
Can we have a second first before you
sorry,
ask?
yeah.
Ben, yeah, okay.
Then second. So my question on that, on the discussion item, but would a single parking space at the end be wide enough for a truck to turn around, might be able to back in?
That's certainly something Christian can address, either by making one of the parking spaces wider or adding an extra parking place instead of asking for a waiver, changing the waiver, just add another space where you can make a turnaround one way or the other.
I think
Yeah,
adding,
and I think, Mr. Coffin, in light of the fact that the motion has already been made, what I would probably do to that end space is just make it an additional 3 feet in width. That gives it 12 feet. That's an entire travel lane of a road.
yeah.
And those vehicles should be able to back out or back into that and head face out into toward the road.
I would add that the space allocated for turnaround be 3 feet wider than the other spaces.
Yeah, 12 feet in total.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. And
You get
second,
changed it.
agrees.
Second.
Okay. So we have a motion on the table. It has been seconded. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, I assume you're ready for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Thank you. Problem solved. I just have 3 quick questions. First of all, the stormwater management plan was acceptable? Okay. And the soil survey was okay? Yes. Okay. So, does that mean we are ready for a motion, Dennis?
Well, we still had the question about whether you're going to register. Record the plans with the registry. And that's something we've required of all applicants, and so I.
Yeah, I had thought that that was
Okay, I thought you
the
were
indication.
saying that you,
And,
if.
you know, again, I'm gonna work with Glenn and Dennis and
Yeah.
make sure
Make
that
it-
all the requisite notes end up on that recordable plan, including the waiver
Okay.
that was approved. So yeah, that Mr. Coffin, I was already assuming we were doing.
Yeah, I'd heard a conditional in there, so I was just making sure that that was something that
Yes, sir.
we definitely are recording.
So
Okay.
I saw 3 conditions of approval. One would be the stormwater management plan would be recorded. One would be the abutters to be added to the recorded pages, and that the waiver approval be added.
Was there also some lingering question about fire protection? Or was that just
Yeah, I
a
think
big
that was,
note I wrote myself?
that question came up because we had a question about whether there's a hydrant and what the fire protection requirements were, and I would suggest that we send them,
Well,
with
there
the
was
fire chief,
it has to comply with NFPA.
NFPA, which is,
And
So,
there were
what
no
you're-
comments from,
Right, the plan did go to the
just
fire.
that
Yeah, the fire
comply.
chief has already reviewed
He's
it.
already reviewed it and looked at
And
it. He was
basically, you
fine.
had us add the Knox box,
Yeah.
you
so,
know,
so no cistern because it's a metal
Right.
building and it had the fireproof
Correct.
walls.
it has the 2-hour fire
2 hour
protection walls.
fire.
Yep.
Which is walls, yeah.
So that's a resolved issue.
And the,
And the
oh, well, that's right,
outstanding
you moved the septic, so that question about the test pits.
But you have an
Correct.
outstanding issue that you're
Oh, no,
still
that's not
wanting
you.
to see a plan revision for.
For the drainage, sorry. Yeah, for the drainage.
Snow storage?
The lines for the building setback, which was my comment number 2. The changes for the, on the plan for the parking area to be changed, cost estimate to be provided, and the drainage changes that you were going to do and show a guardrail to protect the stormwater area, and adding a pre-construction note to the plan for, adding a note for the pre-construction meeting. So those were other issues that need to be submitted for review.
Yeah, and I think those could just be encompassed in a single, you know, final sign-off from the town engineer, which obviously we're happy to work directly with Dennis if the board is comfortable
Three
with that.
conditions of approval.
Yeah, because these are all required, you know, you've said you either changed or you have the engineer,
Yes.
one of them changing the
Yep.
plans as you speak, so that, well, that's quite a list, because,
How many
Okay,
items
dude.
are outstanding?
It's largely administrative, though, I mean, aside from working with the
well, the
swale.
septic plan has been moved, so that would have to be shown on the new plans. The berm or changing the elevation for the drainage.
That's just a matter of swinging the swale around the back of that
Right. But we want-
pull-out, which is, you know, that's very, very simple.
I understand it's an easy fix, but it should be shown on the plans, so that that would have to be,
Oh, yeah, that's why I suggested if the condition was simply made that we address any outstanding comments from the municipal reviewing consultant, you know, Dennis writes us a clean letter, and that would clean that condition up.
How do you feel about that, Dennis?
I guess I don't have a major problem with that. It's no different than Glenn going through a checklist afterwards, as long as it's something, plans are submitted for review, for checkoff.
Exactly. You go through them anyway.
Yeah, I don't typically go through that, but if you certainly want me involved in checking off the final plans, I certainly could do
Well,
it
I'm
that way.
certainly gonna want you to check off a
Your
plan
comments.
where drainage has been changed. That I'm not gonna feel comfortable doing, but I do often do a bullet list and that you guys have agreed to, and I make sure that those bullet items are listed. That's completely common.
Yeah, exactly.
okay. So the permanent guardrail, you would agree to that, I take it? So the plows be placed on at the edge of the pavement so that no snow can be plowed into or near the basin? In fact, but maybe putting a fence up there?
Yeah, I think the contemplation would probably be a fence, and I think that would do a better job of keeping snow out of the pond as well, because obviously you've got a 2.5-foot reveal in between all of the guardrail posts. But, yeah, and I'm gonna work with Dennis as well, with regard to, as we discussed earlier, extending the Cape Cod berm down such that the water drains into the upslope swale section of the pond, ahead of just dropping into where the bioretention material is.
Okay.
All right, and do we want to go through and list all these, or do we want to say that the sign off from Dennis on the, refer to the comments of August 15th, 2024, and do it that way, or?
Yeah, we can do that.
You can do that.
That all,
Yep.
and did you have any notes that weren't also in
Nope,
Dennis's?
they have in essence addressed all of mine now.
Yeah, because when you guys have redundant ones,
Yep, they do.
yeah, okay, and then you had your list of,
Just the three. Oh, the three. The third one's the bond contingency.
the binding, and that was,
Yep, so I
Part of
just
that,
had
yeah.
three. That as we went through our comments, that I knew had to be conditions. So, does somebody want to make a motion?
actually, why don't you? Because you got them written down. I know that the chair doesn't always like to make the motion, but it certainly would save my blundering.
Oh, you're so
Unless somebody
nice.
else wrote it down and can do it.
She's in Robin's usually the one that's right on top of this.
I can't trust my notes though, because I wrote down stuff that was already addressed.
Okay, so I make a motion that we approve the application for Lifestyles Electric, map R3, lot 9, with the following conditions. That the stormwater management plan be recorded at the registry, the abutter list be added to the recorded pages, that the waiver approval be added to the recorded pages, that the bond contingency be approved, an agreement between the town engineer and you, Glenn? Or just the town engineer?
No, it's just.
Just the town engineer?
The applicant's engineer.
Yep, and the applicant's engineer. And that the remaining items of issue on Dennis Quintel's list of August 15th, 2024, be addressed.
Did you also want to say anything about the safety? What was you talking about, Dennis? The on the top of that slope?
I think they addressed that as far as making safety.
They said they were
fences at
planning
the
to do
top,
it,
so
but I don't know if we want to make it a
you can
condition.
show that on the plan too if you wanted to. I mean, that's certainly something that would be handy to have on the plan if you, for future use.
Okay. Is there a second? Okay. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome to Kingston. Okay. It's now 7:55.
That's sweet.
The third application of the evening is from Mark Nason and Carrie Eaton. It's 13 Danville Road, Andrew Lane, map U5, lot 2. This is a proposal to subdivide the existing property containing 6.02 acres into 2 residential lots utilizing the frontage at Danville Road and Drew Lane. The frontage on Danville Road is 200 foot, and the proposed lot is 3.02 acres. The frontage on Drew Lane is 217.41 feet, and will contain 3 acres. And I think Charlie is going to be taking over.
Drew Lane neighbors.
Oh, Charlie, you know the rules?
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board, board staff. It's nice to see everybody. It's been a little while.
That's fine.
So, for introductions, I'm Charlie Zilch from SCC and Associates. I'm here on behalf of Mark Nason and Kerry Eaton, who's sitting here with me. Yeah, they are the owners of the property, and this is a proposal to subdivide their property into 2 residential lots utilizing the frontage at Danville Road and Drew Lane. And I'll just kind of run through the history of the property, the conditions, the existing conditions, and what we're proposing.
Just before you start, Charlie, do we have an extra map anywhere?
There's one at the end of the table.
Okay.
I have some extra
I
plan
just want to
copies.
give it to the public.
Sure, I've got
Because we
some.
don't have this on the screen.
Okay, I got
And
some
I-
11 by 17s.
I just tried to.
Yeah, 11 by 7, what?
I just tried to
Try to what?
give them my plan.
And, well, he's got 11 by 17, so those will work just as well.
we have smaller ones too.
Okay. I just want to make sure they can follow along. Yeah. Oh, okay. Okay,
Okay.
let's go.
All right, so the property is identified as tax map U5 Lot 2. It's 6.02 acres. It has 200 feet of frontage on the north side of Danville Road, which is Route 111. And it has 217.41 feet of frontage on the south side of Drew Lane. Everybody kind of familiar with where we are here? Okay. So this is an existing lot of record that was last subdivided quite a ways back in May of 1973 for Freeman Nason, the Nason family, as you can see here. That was recorded. The subdivision created 3 residential building lots, 2 located on Danville Road on either side of the existing home, and then it created 1 additional lot on Drew Lane. It should be noted that plan also established the 60-foot wide layout of Drew Lane, as you can see on the plan set. So since that time, 1973, there's been no further changes in the lot configuration, and the lot configuration is as you see it on the plan set. So situated on the lot, and this is probably best if you're on page 2 and 3. 2 is the existing conditions plan. You'll see near the southerly end of the site and close to Danville Road is the single-family 2-bedroom residential dwelling and detached garage. The dwelling is served by its own on-site water supply located in front of the building and a septic system located in the rear. Access to that existing house is provided by a shared circular driveway accessing from Danville Road that also serves as a driveway for a budding lot U5-1, which is happened to be owned by Kerry Eaton. So she lives right next door and has a shared driveway through the property. So the property itself, it's generally wooded with flat to moderate slopes throughout. The soils are excessively well drained and no wetlands on the site. So it's a very clean, nice site with very good soils. The property is surrounded mostly by existing residential homes of varying lot size and frontage, and a portion of the site abuts the Sanborn Regional School, which is on the westerly side of the property. Pretty much takes up the whole westerly side. So the site itself is located entirely within the SFR, or single-family residential zone, as well as being entirely within the Aquifer Protection District. So the proposal is to simply subdivide the parcel into 2 residential lots. Proposed lot U-5-2 will capture the existing dwelling and supporting driveway, septic system, and well, and utilizes the existing 200 feet of frontage provided at Danville Road. That lot will contain 3.02 acres. As you know, we're in Aquifer Protection District, so we got to meet the 3-acre lot sizing. So proposed lot U5-2-1, and I might have been a little premature in labeling the lot, should have been lot B or A. That's going to utilize the existing 217.41 feet of frontage provided at Drew Lane and will contain 3 acres exactly. Both lots, meaning the proposed house lot and this new lot, fully comply with the lot sizing requirements of the SFR zone as well as the Aquifer Protection District. Test pits, as witnessed by Michael Cuomo, have been provided for each lot, and a 4,000 square foot receiving area is available for both lots. So we prove on both lots that we have viable septic areas, we have a water supply areas, and we have access. Do want to note that driveway easements have been provided for neighboring driveways that exist without benefit of a deeded easement currently. One is for Kerry's lot, U5-1, and then also for one where the driveway nips across the corner of our lot, and that's U5-13. I think you can see that on sheet 3. Shows a little bit more clearly. So pretty straightforward subdivision proposal, just creating an additional lot to the house lot. But prior to the submittal of the application, I met with both the road agent and fire chief to review the access from Drew Lane for the proposed new lot. It was noted that there is little maneuvering room for the town's fire apparatus within the cul-de-sac as currently constructed. If you take a look at those plans, you'll see the existing condition plan. Drew Lane is a fairly narrow road within that 60-foot right-of-way, and then there was an attempt to make a cul-de-sac there, but it's fairly small little tiered up turnaround. So in meeting with the road agent and the fire chief, I wanted to make sure that we address their concerns by adding one more lot to this roadway, which currently serves about, I don't know exactly, probably 8 to 10 homes right now. This would be the last lot that could be created along here without or using the existing frontage. There's no other lots that have more than 6 acres or 400 feet of frontage along here. So, like I said, they noticed there was very little maneuvering room for snow storage, for turning a fire apparatus around there. So we addressed that with this application. We initially talked about providing a T-turn within the bulb of the cul-de-sac. I tried to lay it out. It was kind of awkward. So I suggested to the fire chief just creating a gravel turnaround there that he could move his ladder truck around on, and we gave you that actual turning radius. There's a little detail on sheet 4 that shows you that. That more than satisfied. Road agent was pretty happy with it. Now he's got some snow storage room, and the fire chief was fine with it. The request is at least provide them a gravel surface there for that turning radius, just for emergency purposes. So that's what we did, kind of in the spirit of cooperation with the town. I know we're asking for an additional lot here, and the cul-de-sac was built, only to that standard that you see, and it really didn't serve the needs of the fire department. We wanted to make sure we had a safe access in and out of here, and so, like I said, that satisfied them quite well. With the application, there's only one state permit required, and that's for subdivision approval. We submitted that, and we received that. That was a fairly straightforward approval. We meet and exceed all the state's requirements. No known variances that I can think of, and we do have one waiver that is for a plan waiver. It's regarding high-intensity soils. I don't think we really need it in this case, where we have some pretty generous lots with excessively well-drained soils. So site-specific soils is what the request would be. So this application is intended to comply with all siting and lot sizing requirements. So the one thing, before we get too far, I know it's going to be a question. So my feeling about Drew Road, again, kind of going back to that, I talked a little bit about the roadway as it was constructed. Obviously not to current town specs, as most roads aren't. The current spec is 100-foot radius, is 150-foot or 200-foot radius cul-de-sac, and 24-foot ribbon of pavement. Most roadways are usually like let's say a 3-rod, 49.5-foot wide right-of-way, usually 19-20 feet of pavement within it. This is a roadway we have the 60-foot right-of-way, but you've got maybe a 13 or 14-foot ribbon of pavement with half-foot shoulders, so at best, maybe 15 feet. The fire chief and road agent didn't see any need to do any more additional improvements upon this. They were just happy with the turnaround. But this right-of-way, it is a platted right-of-way that was approved by the planning board by virtue of that 1973 plan and recorded at the Registry of Deeds. It is an accepted and maintained roadway. As far as I'm concerned, I believe as far as the road agent is concerned, it's a Class 5 roadway. The frontage on that bulb, the cul-de-sac, that math that we show there, the 217 feet, does qualify it as frontage. We're going to make some improvements to make it look and function more as a cul-de-sac on our own dime, and also in an effort to make this a little bit more safe down here as well. So I think that is about it. I know we've got a number of comment letters, but I think perhaps discuss this. I'm looking to hope that the board can accept jurisdiction and we can move on to your input. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Glenn?
Oh my, Charlie, you know how fond I am of you.
Thank you.
So here, these are my comments. Applicant property owner Mark Mason and Carrie Eaton, 13 Danville Road and Drew Lane, tax map U5 Lot 2. This is the first public hearing to subdivide the existing property into 2 residential lots. The planning board should consider invoking jurisdiction to begin the 65-day clock within which time the planning board must render a decision. Before making such a determination, the board should look at my comments below in number 2. The applicant is asking for 3 waivers, 1 to forego preliminary application, 1 to reduce the escrow amount from $5,000 to $1,500, and the final 1 to forego the site-specific mapping that is required in our subdivision regulations. I have no issues with any of those required waivers, and the following are my concerns upon reviewing a plan entitled Subdivision Plan, Tax Map U5, Lot 2, 13 Danville Road, New Hampshire, Kingston, New Hampshire, prepared by SEC and Associates and dated July 8th, 2024. The proposed lot is designed on the subdivision plan as proposed lot U521, and it should just be designated as Lot A. Charlie agrees with me there. That's the last time we agree. The proposed Lot A shows 200 feet of frontage being found on Drew Lane. When the original Drew Lane was subdivided, this lot was located on a cul-de-sac bulb. However, that bulb was never constructed. I have no idea why. So the conundrum is that the lot on the ground now has no conforming zoning for frontage. Without this, there is no ability to subdivide this new lot because the only existing frontage that conforms with the zoning is located on Danville Road on the other side of the lot. And so I see only 2 solutions. Construct the cul-de-sac that was previously approved as being the road that was going to be the Class 5 road that granted frontage. If you do that, you actually have a cul-de-sac that grants the appropriate amount of frontage for this lot. If you only use the existing road that for some reason was not constructed to the approved standard, and I have no idea why that happened, then you're in essence saying as a planning board, we don't believe the 200-foot frontage in our zoning is a requirement. And I'm certainly never going to advise you guys to do that. So the other thing I say, beyond the constructing the cul-de-sac, is apply for a variance from the town's requirement of 200 feet on a Class 5 road. And it's not my place to argue for an applicant what their argument should be before the zoning board, but perhaps it's that for some reason the town allowed a road to be constructed that wasn't constructed to the standard that the subdivision that's recorded at the registry required. But if you don't build that bulb, the frontage measurement, it just doesn't exist. And so to say that there's 217 feet of frontage, and I'm really fond of Charlie, just isn't true. It isn't true. So I can't ignore that, and I would hope that the planning board doesn't ignore that, because we'd be setting a wickedly awkward precedent for anybody else who comes in here and says they're not really sure we need 200 feet of frontage because it doesn't exist over on Drew Road and they got a new subdivision done. So I really am concerned with the board not thinking about this issue strongly. The plan needs state subdivision approval, which when we got the plan was pending, but Charlie has indicated it has already been received, so I guess we agree there as well. And does the board want to take a site walk of this property? Because if you don't agree with me, I really think you should do a site walk. If you do agree with me, maybe you don't have to do a site walk. But in any event, this is a really important issue. So have a nice discussion.
May I comment? Okay, so it is a recorded platted right-of-way, okay? The Eatons only own up to the edge of that bulb, that layout. The town owns the rest of it, okay? It's a town roadway. Part of Drew Lane is that bulb. Regardless of whether or not the cul-de-sac was fully constructed initially or not, it doesn't matter. The actual limit of the right-of-way, the Eatons have 217 feet of frontage along that right-of-way. It is a town-accepted and maintained roadway. It's frontage, it's legal frontage as far as I'm concerned. But I do have an idea here, is whereas we're constructing a turnaround, okay, maybe not fully to town spec, but it's something that's certainly adequate and more than their fair share. And like I said, there's 8 to 10 other people on this roadway. They're willing to do this, and it's gonna cost them money to do this when they go to sell that lot, because whoever's gonna buy the lot is gonna deduct out the cost to build that gravel turnaround. Okay, so it's on their dime, they're doing this, but they also understand the road needs to be safe and safe access to the house. So my thought is, by virtue of, and maybe this takes away some of your angst, Glenn, by constructing this modified cul-de-sac, I can ask for a waiver to your full road design requirements. You can waive that. Now we have a cul-de-sac, a turnaround that satisfies the fire chief and the road agent, probably the 2 most critical people that need access up and down this roadway. I think that's a way of satisfying it. You have the right to waive road design requirements within the platted right-of-way. That's all I could ask for. So I could submit a waiver to allow it to be designed to this standard. I think that takes away the issue.
No.
Okay.
We have 2 very passionate opinions.
I mean,
yes.
I am not at all, I fundamentally disagree with Charlie that because an ancient plat shows a bulb, and that bulb is the required frontage, that means frontage has been established. And quite frankly, if our town council says that that's true, I would have to shut my mouth. But short of my town council saying that that is the case, I just don't agree with the way Charlie looks at the importance of that recorded plat. That recorded plat simply wasn't built the way it was recorded to be built. I mean, that's a fundamental flaw with just saying the ancient plat serves as the roadway.
But it was recorded. There were lots created by that plat, and there were building permits issued to build on those lots, those 3 additional lots. So somebody somehow satisfied a requirement, and I wish there was something in the records. I couldn't find anything that talks about that plan at all. So we have to make the assumption that whatever Drew Road, maybe they widened it a little bit, maybe they just put in that little oblong cul-de-sac at the end, and that was enough to satisfy to get their building permits. But they did. And so it exists. The right-of-way is as it is on this plan. It's a platted right-of-way. The town owns everything within that bulb and within the 60-foot right-of-way all the way back out to the connecting roadway. We're willing to upgrade the cul-de-sac so they can get a fire apparatus around that and provide some snow storage. I think we meet the requirement, and if it's as simple as just submitting a waiver to road design standards, okay, that's my opinion.
I, quite frankly, hate to sound wishy-washy, I see both sides. What that means to me is that, no, seriously, I mean, we've had something. Yeah, exactly. That was where I was going, and she just got there a lot faster.
Yep, it's gotta go to town council.
It has to go to town council because this is, I'm sure, come up all over the state in other places where something didn't get built and the road didn't get built. And I looked on, ironically, Google Maps, the road's view goes all the way out to the end of Drew Lane, where, 13 is that sort of loop dirt driveway is,
Right.
and it's a tiny thing. I don't, like Lynn, I don't know how that got accepted the way they built that road, only, as you said, 15 feet wide instead of up to town requirements, but it definitely needs a full paved.
Well, at that time, there was no need for frontage on Drew Road, because it had adequate frontage on Danville Road.
Oh, I see what you're saying, yeah.
It had adequate frontage.
But lots are being created on Drew Lane.
And if you look
At
on
that time.
ArcGIS, I came up by doing the arc around from point to point, and came up with 206 feet, so I'm sure that your system is more
Yeah, actually,
accurate.
the
But going
plan-
across there, it's, if you go to the end of where Drew Lane is actually shown, the paved section ends, it's only about 50 to 85 feet from point to point, and straight across is 115 feet. If you go straight across from point to point, so because Drew Lane is just a straight road,
Right.
you'd have to use that measurement, not the cul-de-sac loop. That
Do
wasn't
any of
built.
the other houses, the other properties that were created on Drew Lane, not have 200 feet of frontage?
Yes, if you look at the entrance to Drew Lane, there's several small lots. But that's before it gets into a 60-foot wide right-of-way. So there is some mystery to this plan. And I do have a copy of that plan I can flip over on the board just to show. But
Thank you.
And I know when this issue came up in another area that we addressed recently, you had recommended equitable waiver of equitable dimensions, but that was a completely different thing where the planning board had actually signed off on a plan that was less than 200 feet.
So like I said before, what's the threshold then? So you've got Drew Lane, 60-foot right-of-way. Okay, that meets current spec, okay? But you've got a ribbon of pavement that's less than current specification. Like the example I gave you before, I can think of one of the last subdivisions I did was this goes back a couple of years, for the Tids over on Mill Road.
Well,
That
the
was
pavement-
probably a 3-rod road.
But the pavement never takes up the entire 60 feet of the right-of-way.
Never, ever. No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying current town spec is 24 feet of pavement. This one has 13 or 14 feet. And then TID, and this never came into question, they've got like a 49.5-foot right-of-way. It's a town road, okay? And you've got maybe 19 feet of pavement on Mill Road. So what's the threshold? So that was, by today's standards, that wouldn't conform. But it was never, as with most town roads, this is a little bit different. Yes, we have less pavement here, and we had a cul-de-sac that's basically non-existent, but we're willing to at least provide a good, safe turnaround. So I guess I don't see where you can say that was okay and this is not okay. I'm willing to offer up a waiver request, and we're willing to construct this cul-de-sac at a fairly expensive cost. These aren't cheap. Gravel's expensive, and there's going to be some site work there. I think that'll satisfy the safety issue with the roadway. It satisfies the road agent as far as having an area for snow storage, and it more or less legitimizes the bulb of the cul-de-sac because now you can have an actual turnaround.
Okay, so we have a difference of opinion. Dennis?
So, listening to this conversation before I get into my comments, one question for Charlie is there any frontage for U513?
Which one's U513?
At the end.
Right at the top.
of the house.
No, that comes to it, well, according to the old subdivision, I'll show you.
How much frontage does that lot have?
This is our lot, and it doesn't show the frontage on that lot.
So, there's no frontage?
No, there's no
I didn't
frontage on
survey
this lot
that
at all.
lot. We tied into this existing plan, and so there's this one common point there,
So, there's one lot there that doesn't have hardly any frontage, if any at all.
if any at all.
And that's the one where the driveway
Yep.
is actually on Lot A.
I know you're not talking about that, but I just thought I'd bring it up and just say, I don't know if that goes into the equation or not, of what you're talking about, but just.
Yeah, how did that get approved?
My entire issue is finding 200 feet of frontage for a lot that's being created today.
I hear you.
That is, because that's the only thing that's going to be what the next person down the road wants to question me about. They're not gonna question me about a lot that was perhaps developed, I don't know, 70 years ago, before even Drew Lane was there.
Fine, I just wanted to bring that up, but I'll go into my comments now. So I got copies of the plans to look at, and all the letter of intent, subdivision application, letter of authorization, all the other applications like SEC normally submits. And I offer the following comments for the board to consider. Number one, on sheet 1, note 16 states that the building inspector will review the options for stormwater mitigation of the proposed dwelling. This proposal has options for mitigation, and I believe prior to building permit, the selected option should be determined with site-specific details to assist for final review and approval, because I know in the past there's been a concern from the building department in talking to previous building inspectors about drainage and whether it's acceptable or not. So I just wanted to bring that up and see if the board wants to make some answers to that question that I have. So comment number 2, sheet 3 and 4, there's an existing walking trail on proposed lot 2-1. Will that remain with an easement, is my question. Number 3, there's an existing shed on lot 2 behind lot 3. Perhaps the ownership should be clarified as to who actually owns that, as it's right close to or near the property line. I would think there'd be an easement should be provided for lot 3 if that's the case, if that's the ownership. Number 4 was on sheet 4. The sheet shows the proposed improvements for the end of Drew Lane. Proposed cuts and additional impervious surface will increase stormwater runoff, so mitigation should be provided. Article 90510E, it would be easier for town maintenance to have a surface pavement instead of gravel. That's just my opinion on that. Number 5, comment is site-specific details should be provided for the side slopes, for side slope stabilization. Number 6, although note 12 on sheet 1 is a general statement for construction, per 90514D, specific details must be provided for the road and driveway construction. So I suggest providing cross-sections and material specifications. That's typically what's required for any modification or building of a road construction. Number 7, Article 301.2 defines improvements to Drew Lane must be constructed prior to building permit. I would recommend adding a note to the plan accordingly. Number 8, the proposed driveway for lot 2-1 is shown to be about 16 feet wide. It needs to be clear that if a home has sprinklers or not, the driveway must be at least 20 feet wide, and that's according to NFPA requirements, and see detail on sheet 5. So it should be clarified as to which one's going to be used, whether it's sprinkled and go to 16 feet or not sprinkled and go to 20 feet wide. So number 9, comment, Article 90514H, bonding is required for road improvements and to cover inspections for that. Article 907.3A3, the bond amount must be set prior to planning board approval. Number 10, Article 90514I1E, certification of monumentation is required. I note there are no monuments that exist are proposed on the front corners of Lot 2 at Danville Road. So to minimize future conflicts, I believe now would be an appropriate time to clearly identify those corner points. Additionally, I have no objection to the 3 waivers that were proposed. And also, the other thing I noticed is that the abutting lot U512 has a well within that right-of-way. I don't know if that makes any difference. It doesn't have anything really to do with this application, but it's on the plan, so just thought I'd note that. So those are my comments for now.
Okay. Does the board have any questions? Yeah, just want to see if we have any questions.
So at this point, I know there's some debate. I heard the rap. I know there's some debate about the Drew Lane frontage. Is the board comfortable with accepting jurisdiction at this point? And then we can send it off for town council review?
I wouldn't do it until we get the council review, just because we don't know the time frame on getting the council getting back.
Glenn?
That's a planning board decision. I'm 65 days. I can't imagine that council would take more than a week to get back to us, but it's what the board feels comfortable with.
The only reason I'm saying that is if council gets back to us and says it needs to go for an appeal, to go to the ZBA, for example, for variance, then you're burning up
They can ask for an extension.
extensions, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I keep forgetting about the extensions thing.
How does the board feel about accepting jurisdiction?
I will make a motion to invoke jurisdiction.
Second?
For purposes of discussion, I'll second it, but I think it's too soon. I'll second it to continue discussion, but I think it's too soon to accept jurisdiction. I think there's some complicated issues here, and in my short time of 4.5 years on the select board, this falls right into another bottomless pit. And I would like to see some resolution, some solutions going forward, not compounding past stuff.
Yeah, because I think if it turns out that it would be on the town's dime to bring this up to the standards we never required it to be at, you know, to bring a cul-de-sac in there and bring Drew Lane up into current standards, because it was the town's mistake in not making sure that it happened before this was subdivided, then that would affect how this whole process is going to go. So I mean, I'm just thinking there's a lot of different, just a whole bottomless pit of possibilities. So I agree. I think it's too early to do that. I think we need.
One of the ruling thumbs on the zoning board is to make things less non-conforming, and we have so many challenges in the different roads throughout the town that I don't want to rush into saying this is okay for this area here and then end up with another, oh my goodness, we shouldn't have done that. I'd rather take it a little bit slower, that's all.
Okay, so we've had discussion. Is there any further discussion from the planning board? Seeing none, all those in favor of invoking jurisdiction at this time? All those opposed? Okay, guess we can do that next month.
Just one question. If we were to be instructed to petition to the Zoning Board of Adjustment, who will be asking relief from?
We'll know better after we get
Yeah,
advice from council.
That's one of the reasons we have.
Right, because I really don't understand what variance would be required here. If it's to a road standard, that's within the planning board's jurisdiction, road design.
But if it's if the guidance from town council is that that doesn't qualify as a class 5 road for providing frontage, then you're asking for a variance from the zoning ordinance requirement of 200 feet of frontage.
But the roadway is maintained by the town and owned by the town.
The existing roadway is, yes.
Yes.
But the designed approved one is not.
And again, that's planning board.
That is correct, but I think what we want is some advice from town council first before we make a move, so we'll move in that direction.
Is the board, I did hear Peter say that he was kind of split between the two. When that opinion goes to town council, would I be able to submit my opinion along with it?
I don't know, how does that work?
I would think that the
I'm
town council would
perfectly
take
happy to send
input.
Yeah,
all of your application materials to
Okay.
council.
Yeah, if I could
They'll-
put
they'll
a
wanna
brief
see as
narrative
much
with
as-
it.
They'll want to see as much as possible.
Okay.
yeah.
Town
I think
council has
everybody
to
would wanna
research
see
it, so
everything.
if you have something that shows precedent of that frontage based on a plot that wasn't ever built, then, you know, that would be good input to provide, you know.
Okay. No, I appreciate that.
So what we
I
really
just
need to
think it'd be
find out is how
important.
grandfathered all of this is, and I think,
Okay.
I think we'll just need to get her opinion on that. We'll send your information, we'll send Glenn's information, and we'll get an opinion.
Who is town council?
Carrie Roman.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so we do have comment from 3 of our departments. The first comment is from Conservation Commission. They have no further comment. From the Fire Department, we just need to be able to get down the road and turn around, as long as the end of the road is per plan and enough room to spin a truck around. The plan shows public way ? I'm assuming that doesn't mean a paved way. And the last one is from our Director of Public Works. What is proposed is an improvement over what is currently there, and if it works for the fire department apparatus, then it should work for us. So, those are the comments from town departments. Seeing nothing else from the planning board?
Hold on, I have some questions.
Okay.
So, I mean, has the department heads looked at it this way, or have they looked at it Glenn's way?
They haven't heard Glenn's comment yet, so they've not looked at it that way.
Okay, because this is non-existent there now, this bubble.
It's a plan that wasn't built. Yeah.
Right. So, I think we should ask our department heads based on what's there today.
I think we should ask them that once we get advice from town council.
Okay.
That sounds legitimate.
Yeah,
Okay, that's all I have.
okay. The end of pub,
Are you considering not asking for public comment because we've not really invoked jurisdiction?
well, they're all here tonight.
They are.
So I think we should definitely hear from
I'm so
them.
hoping that you're going to hear from
That was my plan.
Thank you, thank you.
That was my plan.
Thank
No, I think everyone should have an opportunity to
And
speak.
they have been a patient lot.
They have, they've been here for 2 hours almost, so, absolutely. So, we'll start public comment. You guys want to step back? So, for those of you that came into the room after our meeting started and didn't hear the initial instructions, the way public comment works is you come to the front of the room, you need to give us your name, so we have it for the record, and your address. And then you can tell us, ask questions, tell us your opinions, and just make a comment. So is there anyone that would like to speak at this time? Yes, ma'am.
We do have a letter.
Press the button.
My name is Sandra Fleming. I live at 13 Drew Lane. I had some questions, but I think maybe this gentleman had some same questions that I had, like the existing trail through the woods, what happens to that? The lot is heavily forested, and it slopes, so when there's a heavy rain, there's runoff. It soaks into the ground fairly quickly, but it kind of falls along that trail. So if you cut in a driveway there and excavate and take down a bunch of trees, what happens to the runoff if there's a heavy rain? You know, I see it's going to be, I hear it's going to be zoned residential. That was one of my questions, was how would it be zoned? And then I heard that it is, I wanted to know if it was a buildable lot with capability for septic and a well, but it sounds like that's already been checked. And then my other question was about the pavement down there at the end of the lane, and that seems like something that you guys are concerned about and addressing. So those are my questions. All right. I know, but they're on the record now. Thank you.
Thank you. I am an abutter to the proposed subdivision referenced above. I will be attending the meeting on August 20th, 2024, but want to provide you with my written comments and concerns prior to the meeting, which are listed as follows. Roadway. The prior plan, which this plan is based on, shows the existing roadway 60 feet wide. Drew Lane is only approximately 12 to 14 feet wide. It is a narrow road that is in disrepair. Questions. Is the road going to be widened? If so, how wide? What are the town road standards for this type of project? Who will be responsible for the costs? Cul-de-sac. The cul-de-sac was never built. As it presently exists, the turnaround at the end of Drew Lane is only approximately 32 feet wide. If the cul-de-sac is built based on the proposed plan dated July 8th, 2024, it is unclear how the required 200 foot of frontage would be obtained. Questions. Would someone please explain where the frontage is? Who would be responsible for the costs? Who would build a retaining wall and/or grade land to keep my land from washing away? Why gravel along the outside of the cul-de-sac? What about the snowplows in the winter weather? Proposed subdivision plan. This proposed plan is significantly inaccurate and based off a prior plan that was never developed and over 30 years old. As the land and road exist today, it is not reasonable nor feasible to entertain a road 60 feet wide. Requests. Present an accurate plan showing accurate road width, present an accurate plan showing accurate proposed cul-de-sac, etc. Proposed mailbox. The proposed plan depicts a mailbox at the end of the proposed driveway. The USPS carrier refuses to drive down Drew Lane as they claim it is unsafe. Question. What is the applicant's alternative for mail delivery? Sidewalk. A sidewalk is formally requested before any approvals are issued by the town. Please feel free to contact me with any questions prior to the meeting. Thank you. Sincerely, Scott Chevalier. The Scott Chevalier Living Trust, 10 Drew Lane, Kingston, New Hampshire. Thank you. Does anyone else have any public comment? Going once, going twice. All right, we will close public comment. Next steps. Okay, next steps for this particular application. I think probably we would be a motion to send the information to town council might be in order, and then a motion for continuance.
We'll start with the first one to send it to town council, so moved.
Any further discussion?
Waiting until Monday to do that. Is that okay with folks? And that would give you time, Charlie, to get to me anything additionally you'd like to get to me?
That's fine.
Is that
Yep,
okay?
that's fine, thank you.
Okay. All right. So we have a motion. We have a second. No further discussion. All those in favor? Okay. So it's going to town council. And then the second thing is continuing the meeting. Motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion. We've continued to September 17th at 6:45 with any revised plans due by the 5th at noon.
If any.
What?
If any.
If any, any revised plans, if any, exist.
Do we have, and for a second? Okay. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Okay, so for members of the public, we have questions about the road. We have questions about the cul-de-sac. We're going to ask town council those questions so that we can get an opinion and hopefully come to some sort of a conclusion about that, or at least get their advice prior to the next meeting. Our next meeting is going to be September 17th. You will not be further noticed on this. So this is your only notice that it's going to be on the 17th. So you won't get anything in the mail or anything like that. So if you understand that. Does anyone from the public have any questions regarding this particular notice? The meetings all start at 6:45. The agenda will be, this will be the second thing on the agenda. So it will not be at 6:45 unless the first applicant asks for another extension. Okay.
Great. Thank you for consideration.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. Have a great night, everyone.
You too.
Bet.
Public hearing closed. Okay. So continuing on with the meeting, we have board business. Do I have a motion to accept the July 16th minutes as published this afternoon?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Second from Ben. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. First item done. We have a letter from the Liquor Commission. Hickory Grove LLC, doing business as Golden Acres Campground. Member Newton Kershaw has made an application to the Division of Enforcement for a combination beverage wine liquor license under the provisions of RSA 178:18. This establishment is located at 99 Route 125. Pursuant to RSA 541-A:39, the New Hampshire Liquor Commission hereby provides the city-town of Kingston with notice of the application and informs you that you may submit data, views, comments, or other materials or evidence with respect to the potential issuance of the liquor license. This information will be taken into consideration by the Division of Enforcement and Licensing prior to its recommendation to the Liquor Commission for approval or denial of the license. Is that for their store?
Yeah, it's like.
Or is that they serving food?
Off license, or is it for open? I mean, selling six packs and stuff.
They're not in compliance with their site plan, for crying out loud.
I think I think they need to come to us with a revised site plan that shows the reinstitution of that store.
Right.
And that hasn't, he says that he's aware that the store needs site plan approval. So until that happens, how can we say that we're okay with that liquor license?
So shall we have a letter sent by the Board of Selectmen, by the Planning Board? It came to the town of Kingston.
It actually was sent to Tim.
Oh, we sent it to him.
Okay.
Because I think that the letter back to them should come from the Board of Selectmen. But I'm happy if the Board of Selectmen wants me to send a letter to you saying the board talked about it, but we feel it's premature to grant a liquor license to a store that we haven't approved.
You could do that along with a letter. Do that along with a letter from the Liquor Commission,
Yeah.
but it's my understanding that they're not in compliance with the site plan as it exists now. How could we further compound
Right.
non-compliance?
Well, they came in for an amended site plan that
Truck.
provided
With a food truck.
Yeah, single
a
food
food truck and the change location of the,
sign.
The propane tank.
Oh, the propane tank, yeah.
But that's all they did.
that's
Right.
the only.
So what are the
approval.
other
What,
non-compliances?
site plan
Well, they have,
non-compliance do you feel they have?
Well, maybe,
do they have permission to have the store?
No.
Okay, so I think that's non-compliance. If they're having a store where they're gonna sell liquor, or they're going to have
Do we know
another,
that there's not a store on that site plan?
I don't know. I don't remember what else was at issue. I mean, they had come up, the food trucks.
Historically, there was a store there.
yeah.
I guess it would seem logical to me that there is one on the plan, because it was an existing campground previously, correct?
It was a campground, that's
Yes,
correct.
It's always been a campground.
I would be surprised if they didn't.
They didn't have a store. All right, what,
But he came to us with other things on the site plan that,
I thought
had not
they
been
had
done.
cleaned that all up, and it was
yeah.
looking good the
Okay,
last
so-
time they were here.
It looked to me
the
the-
very limited site plan that we did, yes.
Yes.
okay.
Just those two things. is
So
what we
then bounce
approved.
it back to the select board, refer it to them,
Yep.
because if,
Well, I guess my concern is if they've got now food trucks, and they're
just-
gonna have liquor,
they're only supposed to have one food truck.
There's one food truck that's right there right now.
The
Yeah.
trailer, yeah.
And I've only
where
seen
they
one,
Proposed it.
yep.
So I guess my question is, if they have the store and it's on their plan, do we have concerns?
I know that it had not been approved by Pedro, because he didn't have proper, building permit plans. But I guess I need to look at the history of the site, because I know there was a store, but it was my understanding that the store ceased to exist a number of years ago.
and the store was there,
That's not true.
the store was there only to serve the people of the campground, I believe, not the
That's
general
correct.
public.
That's correct.
Which may still,
But that's still maybe what they're intending with this.
That's correct, but we need to make that clear,
We need more information.
yeah.
Can you sell
Yeah,
liquor from the food truck?
And
Glenn,
I think it would have to be.
I don't think that's appropriate, you can just pass it down to me, Linda.
Okay,
I'm sorry.
Whoever owns and operates.
I'm not jokeable these days.
that makes sense.
I believe.
That
We
makes
have
sense.
no idea,
Yeah,
yeah.
yep. Okay, so Glenn's gonna research and send a letter to the selectmen. Okay, perfect. We have a bill
Food
from
trucks are
Civil
the way to
Construction
go, I know, I
Management
get that.
for $1,230
Oh, my goodness.
for 6 Granite Way, the site plan engineering review. No objection?
No.
No.
Okay.
Sign away.
We have a invoice from Civil Construction Management for $1,485 for CJ&J site plan engineering review. Okay? Any objections?
No.
Intent to cut wood or timber. I don't need that, right? Worksheet? All this stuff is old? Okay,
Yeah,
okay. That's okay. All right. That's everything.
Can I just, and I really don't want to bring this up, but I'm going to. Bresnahan,
oh, good.
yeah. So, my understanding was they were moving forward with putting new trees in, with the understanding that they were gonna have to clear a path to plant the trees. Has anybody driven by? Because it looks like they just arbitrarily cut down trees. It was more than just cutting brush. But it looked, and I could be misinterpreting what I'm seeing, but it looks like a bunch of stuff got clear cut, and I'm not sure anything new went in.
That's the gift that keeps on giving.
So I'm hoping somebody else has seen it and can tell me that I'm hallucinating, because
I can't tell you.
I want to be done with
I
talking about
heard
this site.
people say that something was going on out there, but I don't.
Okay.
I thought I saw a tree on a,
Well, the one thing we need to do is,
Piece of equipment.
and if they're trying to get this done so they can move into the second part, they still need to have the work inspected, and by the, is it both people who signed that agreement, or just
We would really just want,
county forester?
yes, Jordan, Mr. Jordan,
Yeah.
forget his first name.
So when he gets the trees planted according to the plan, he needs to notify us that it's time for the inspection. Then there's a maintenance thing, and I can't remember what the document said, it's been so long, about, you know, how long we hold the escrow, because it's gonna have to be for multiple years, so that the
Correct.
trees, when they die,
so they don't die.
because they have to go in water, somebody's gotta come around and water and stuff like that, so, well, this rain has been good.
Okay.
So, you know, the select board's not gonna is not gonna lift the cease and desist for the second phase.
No, there would be no action, there would be no going forward with phase two
Without full inspections, yeah. Okay, so, I guess maybe we should ask Glenn to contact and see when they're ready for inspections and do all that kind of stuff.
Contact Pedro
Yeah,
and see if he knows of any, contact the building inspector, see if there's been any activity to get it done. I mean, someone's gotta go inspect.
The building
I
would,
think I should contact Joe Bresnahan and tell him that when he's done, he needs to tell us. Because
Okay,
that's
right.
when we will have him
Evaluate.
go out and take a look.
okay.
In the meantime, we could just go by and take a look.
I can.
yeah, because this isn't a building inspector issue. It's entirely planning board and board of selectmen.
But I think Kelly was thinking of it as Pedro code enforcement, or?
Yeah,
Code enforcement officer, yeah, I get it, you're saying, yeah. Sorry, I forgot about that.
We make him do both, and we're burning his wick on both ends. Let me tell you, that man is, he's
Worth his way to go.
he is spending a lot of time in the town of Kingston.
okay.
Sorry.
Any other business to come before us? Seeing none, we're adjourned. Thank you,